conduct my final workout, a 60-minute brisk walk, except on rainy days, which it is now. It's rather bleak, inclement, dreary, wet. Here is where I conduct it's where I begin my exercise routine, which stretches. Then I do the aforementioned crunches. Then, displaced a few centimeters or inches here, I do 3 variations of planking. Lateral and regular. Lateral and plank. Basic plank. And then finishes with 11 push-ups. And then I proceed to conclude the indoor routine sequence with the stuffed animal. I have not given them a gender, so I'm allowed to say this house with stuffed animal. The poodle that I've had for 16 years now. I've had them since I was 8. It was a gift. It was gifted to me. They're missing an eye now, but I've endearingly christened them Odin because of it. They're sufficient weight for weightlifting, and I use them to raise above my head for an indefinite and indeterminate amount of repetitions, just enough until I feel Dante's Inferno. Orchestrating muscle contractions until I feel the intensity of Dante's Inferno in my muscle contractions. Did I mention that the doors have been repainted by my grandfather? They're no longer eggshell without Romalian type. And then here we have ×1 shiny, ×2. What other intimate secrets do I wish to reveal? Ooh. 60-minute brisk walk. Postponed for today. My very first take of whatever this is, the brilliance and exposure was so bright that it couldn't, my lens couldn't focus, and it looked as if I was right now at a certain point. Bugger. Right here. I'm not going into... Yes. The Ivory Gate. That's what it is.
Between the hours of 9 AM and 10 AM, I was sat on the shitter, conducting my daily bowel movement, when I chanced upon the idea of recording myself, the decision, and here I am wanting to divulge the story of how I met a guy on OKC. On a sweltering summer's day, a young man and woman, early 20s, arranged a meeting at the mall. When they met, the young woman, inquisitive as she is, intuitive, immediately deduced that the young man was bait. This young man had been smoking marijuana a few moments prior to their meeting. It was evident in his eyes. His tongue was glazed. His tongue was glazed by snail secretions. His lids hooded. So when they got all of the formalities out of the way, formal, informal greetings, they trekked to a Starbucks within the mall. During this exchange, a few awkward Hollywood scenarios occurred. One being the classic spilling coffee on the lap. The young man spilled coffee on his lap, clumsy oaf that he was, clumsy, baked, clumsy, stoned oaf that he was. The young woman rushes to gather a number of napkins for him. Returning to the table, they exchange awkward, goofy smiles and glances. A young woman, another young woman, a mother with child, in a stroller, passes by, telling the younger couple not to have children. In jest, she says. They leave Starbucks. Returning to their car, he inquires to her, "Would you like to smoke with me?" She agrees. They go to his car. Incidentally, they were parked right next to each other. A sweltering summer's day. Not only are they baking physically, not only are they baking psychologically, psychically, but now they're baking quite literally, physically, viscerally. They could excoriate themselves and still would not find relief. Sat in the young man's hoopty, which is slang for a rundown, derelict, in dire, desperate need of replacement, automobile. His air conditioning was not working. Therein why his windows were rolled down. So, he turns the radio on. He prepares the pound of whatever remained of his collection. And, naturally, as par for the course of the community, he had a rotten apple as his instrument. So he smoked from a rotten apple. He had a number of holes already poked in there. What of all? The worms. And so I thought to myself, I took one hit, and one hit only, and suffered a migraine, hence. It was my first time. Now, considerably, I would not really constitute that. I would not qualify, and I'm sure others would not qualify that as a genuine first time. I barely even inhaled. But that's of little import. We sat there. I was willingly burning. I had the volition to sit there and allow more melanin to accumulate, to make a meal of myself in the least sexual way possible. Because if libido existed during that moment, it existed in the 10th circle of hell. Never to resurface again. Not even by advanced humanity. Never to resurface again. And again, the awkwardness lingered. I'd wager to say that approximately a quarter of an hour passed before I intimated my departure. I was neutral in my tone. I did not care to issue I did not care, and I'm sure he did not care to issue any. The man was gone. He did not have any faculties, if at all. He was on literally cloud 9, and I should hope that that cloud had decent air circulation. Suffice to say, we did not meet again. However, he did contact me a number of months succeeding. Again, he found me again. But it never happened. I still kept his phone number. After that happened, I left in my own car. I will admit that, aside from the acute neuralgia, my wits were still about me. Yet there was a lapse in which I hit the bumper on the side of the road, a fair width. I overcrossed, and then I continued. I went to get gas. I was a bit more mellow, despite my head throbbing. I went to go home. So here I was. Here was the young woman who smoked out of an apple with a young man. What a modern love story. Did you know for the average healthy human, urination should take approximately 8 seconds? An average of 8 seconds to urinate. Topics of controversy. sensitive information, intimate details, and the lack of concept thereof. What of the individual who does not define? What of the individual who disregards sensitivity? They understand the need for tact, but they have a difficult time communicating that consistently to the audience that needs it, to the audience that is sensitive and needs the speaker, the listener, to employ tact, to not employ brutal honesty. Someone to provide a cushion or bandage. But the speaker, the listener, conceives that as a betrayal to their instinct, to their intuition. Because they would not want the same from the person that they're speaking to. They would want someone else to be honest with them, no matter how brutal, no matter how cruel. They value honesty. They do not want to be sugar-coated, lied to. Yet, they must contend with the individuals who have thin skin. They must contend to be gentle in their excision of the anatomy that they try desperately to cover, to exchange for a prosthetic. Many hesitate to divulge intimate details. They are reluctant to reveal themselves in a vulnerable position, whether physically or psychologically. They will contemplate whether or not they should show themselves in a naked state. They are reluctant. They deliberate on whether or not it would be apt, it would be a wise decision to disclose that they are presently on the toilet, on the ceramic throne, conducting their daily bowel movement. Yet when it concerns carnal matters, the hesitation is more resolute. They will create accounts to which others will create accounts, to which both parties are both client and server. The client receives this media of the server, bearing themselves